Hello, you want to start a nonprofit. Here are the 9 steps. Yes, only 9 steps to get your nonprofit set up. Now, this is not just about registering your corporation. This is also about setting it up for success, for sustainability, and starting with no money. As a precursor to the 9 steps, be sure that you have a clear understanding of why you want to start a nonprofit. This will help you jumpstart your nonprofit setup. If you haven't given this much thought, here are some reasons that we've heard. You see a community need that is not being fulfilled, and you want to do something about it. And you know that there are others that share the same sentiments as you. You want to do something. Well, a nonprofit can pull a group of like-minded people together to address the need. Now, to be transparent, it does take work and perseverance, but it is doable. So let's get started. So here are the 9 steps. Let's read them out to you. So that define your purpose, develop a mission statement, find founding board members, develop a bare bones budget, raise startup funding, assuming you start with no cash and no liquidity, set up your nonprofit, develop an operational fundraising strategy, network and reach out to share your message, and of course, thanking donors. Now, to be fair, I should let you know that there is a checklist out there. It's an affiliate link. If you're aware of any other similar checklist books for nonprofit founders, let me know, and if we can, we'll add it to the messaging down here. In this particular book, each of these 9 steps are supported by objectives, and each of these objectives is supported by milestones. And there's a start date and an end date, and pages for you to log the actions you've taken to try and achieve each objective. So looking at these 9 steps that we've identified, let's explore each just a little bit here. Now note that there are separate videos on each that are much more detailed. What we'll touch on here is a brief synopsis of each so you can decide which videos might be relevant to you and which ones you have covered. The first is to define your purpose. If you can't articulate what your purpose and mission is, people are not going to donate and align and support and volunteer your activities. So one of the things that's helpful is to define your purpose formally in a constructive brainstorming environment where you're aligned on what your mission is. And once you know that, you're able to bring people into the fold to support you. With that in hand, you can move over to the next stage, which is to develop your mission statement. Now, mission statement is more than just words. It is your guiding star. Sailors might say it's a North Star. The way to think about it is this. When a decision has to be made and you, the leader, are not available, if there are two choices, someone looking at your mission statement from inside your nonprofit might say, well, given our mission statement, this is the decision we need to make, assuming a decision has to be made immediately. Then, of course, there's the founding board members. They play a critical role. They bring a network, they bring knowledge, they bring support, they're passionate and trustworthy. And these boards can bring a diversity of experience in terms of legal, finance, fundraising, capital markets, etc., all of which are important to your nonprofit. Again, the detailed videos on each of these cover this in more detail. Now, to get going, assuming you don't have initial funding, if you're not funding it yourself, you need to raise some capital. The question is, how much do you need to get your initial formation of your nonprofit? And for that, you need to develop a bare bones budget. And this is not a full-blown budget. This is a targeted budget that's intended to get your nonprofit registered, set up, and have the basic infrastructure and perhaps even some cash for an initial round of funding to run operations. And then once you've got that budget, you use that target, which generally tends to be between $2,000 to $5,000, depending on the state you're in, what kind of skills and resources you have available for free pro bono, and what you have to pay for. So that would include things like registration fees in the state, legal fees, etc. And you need to factor this into determining and raising that target. So now you've got a number, let's say it's $2,000. The question is, how do you go about gathering that money? Now, you got to tell people as you're raising money that the initial contributions are not tax deductible until your nonprofit is officially registered. And if they know that, that trust you build can help you once you get going. And once you've raised that initial seed capital of $2,000 to $5,000, you're ready to set up your nonprofit. There's a video out there on how to set up your nonprofit. This step includes registering your nonprofit, filing the necessary paperwork, and obtaining any licenses required in your state. It's important to get this step right, so take your time, and if needed, seek professional advice. We suggest seeking the support of a legal professional, because if you miss something, it'll delay the process in terms of your registration and in terms of getting your tax-free status. And then, once you've got that done, you've got your company set up, and remember, your nonprofit is a company. Once it's set up and it has a tax-free status, then comes the next step, which is to develop an operational fundraising strategy. And by that I mean that you need to have a means to generate funds to fulfill your mission. So you need to know who you'll ask, what you'll ask, when you'll ask, how you'll ask. So you've got many campaigns. You might have cold mailings, hot mailings, warm mailings. You might have galas, events, many different programs to reach people, social media advertising. So you need to be able to track these and see, when am I going to run what program? Because running them all will be a tremendous burden on your fundraising team. So scheduling this and tracking performance is important to your success. And then, of course, you've got to have a network message to share with the audience and donors and people who might volunteer to support you. You need to communicate that you need not just money, but you need volunteers, skills, and in-kind support. So all of these things are messages you need to pre-frame so your entire team is delivering a consistent, reliable message. And then finally, we say finally, but it's something that happens all along the way. There is a process of thanking your donors. The gratitude goes a long way in building lasting relationships. Always thank your donors, big or small, and let them know the difference they've made. Now, there's a video on this that we cover separately, where we talk in more depth about thanking and how that works, and that might be an interesting view. So once you've completed these steps, you'll have a solid foundation for your nonprofit, one that is sustainable, one that will keep going, and one that'll keep pulling people in. Now, I'll provide a link to that checklist we mentioned earlier, but for now, let's take a look at the major headings. So, for define your purpose, each of the milestones are identifying the need, evidencing the need, providing community support or evidence of community support, planned activities, expected outcomes, and value proposition. So once you've documented all this, you've got the core values to begin developing your mission statement. And your mission statement has a purpose, a vision, core values, a target audience, the unique approach that you have that differentiates your nonprofit from others, inspiration and motivation important to all participants to convey a common message, and a call to action. Then we have the founding members section, which has these 5 milestones: a diverse skill set, talking about, for example, the ability to raise money, the ability to have reach into the community, into networking, etc., passion and commitment, community connections, leadership and governance, and fundraising, as we mentioned earlier. Under Barebones Budget, we have 6 milestones. These are the organization, formation of the organization. You need to know what that is. The legal fees, the insurance fees, office expenses, record keeping, and more. And again, there's a more detailed video on this. Next slide. And in terms of startup funding, you don't just go out there raising money. There's a video on how you think about this problem. Is you develop a funding strategy. We cover that in more detail. Identifying your audience, who are you going to approach, how, when, why, and then creating a plan to reach out to them. So we're not approaching everyone on every front on every plan at the same time, but doing it in an organized fashion so that we can track progress and effectiveness. Then, of course, executing and monitoring, and then learning from what we've executed, adjusting and repeating the process. And that brings us to setting up your nonprofit. And here are the 8 milestones to get that done. They include selecting a name, securing a domain name, forming your board of directors, agreeing on bylaws, and incorporating, having a board meeting, adopting your bylaws, and then filing your Form 1023 with the IRS, and then making sure you have the business ecosystem to make it run. There's an entire video on this, and I hope that's helpful. Let's move on to the next item. And then once we're formed and we're set up and we're running, it's time to look at operational fundraising strategies. And there's a separate video on that too. And this includes things like identifying your funding sources, setting up fundraising goals, developing donor engagement plans, fundraising events, grant writing, having a process to do that, business partnerships, and online fundraising. And then it's an ongoing activity of networking and reaching out to engage with your local community, to build strategic partnerships, leverage social media and online platforms, attend conferences and workshops to network, develop an elevator pitch. All of these are covered in another video too. And finally, as we said earlier, thanking your donors, which is something that's iterative that happens over and over again. Moving on from that, let's take a look at the 9 steps again. So they are: define your purpose, develop a mission statement, founding board members, a bare bones budget, raising startup funding, setting up your nonprofit, developing an operational fundraising strategy, networking and reaching out, and of course, thanking everyone in the network. And that brings us to a few closing comments. So starting a nonprofit is achievable and rewarding. While the initial setup may seem like a daunting hurdle, the true challenge lies in sustaining your vision and mission over the long term. At its core, nonprofit success is about raising enough funding to keep your programs alive and thriving while managing expenses wisely. We've discussed fundraising in detail, but expense management is equally critical. Here are some parting thoughts to guide you. Focus on value, not just price. An affordable solution that requires a significant amount of your team's time may ultimately cost your team more money than paying a little more upfront for a system that takes less to maintain. Then, of course, prioritize the systems that focus on your mission, even if they cost a little more upfront. For example, a solution that's 10% more expensive but saves 20% of your team's time is a better long-term investment. Next, select key vendors thoughtfully. These include providers like payroll providers, benefits package providers, and this is because you want something that's easy to use, easy to set up, and provides quick access to reports and setups. If you have all of that, your administrative overhead drops dramatically. It's one area that can take up tremendous amount of time if not properly set up. Another area is office technology. What do you do with sourcing and supplying computers, office software, cloud software, communications, telephones, etc.? So setting these up thoughtfully with maintenance in mind can be a huge plus as you plan ahead. Now, this is just the beginning. We'll be covering more topics on nonprofit operations in future videos. Everything from optimizing donor engagement to mastering the art of storytelling for your mission. If you found this presentation helpful, we invite you to like, subscribe, and follow us for updates. We're here to support you as you embark on this incredible journey of service and impact. You're not alone. There's an entire community of like-minded change makers working to make the world a better place. Best wishes as you build your nonprofit and bring your vision to life. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you so much for watching.